Hello guys, welcome back to our channel, and today we're going to be discussing how nuclear energy can stop climate change. If you didn't know already, a lot of scientists and environmental activists have been hyping up about this in recent years. So stay tuned, and we're going to discover how to save the world with nuclear energy. But before we continue, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, as well as hit the post notification bell so you never miss another update from us. Why is it so hard to transition to nuclear energy? Okay, so this whole nuclear energy saving the world thing might come across as a bit of a shock to many activists who are currently fighting against nuclear energy. But who's right here? To save this small planet that we call home, we need to find a solution to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. A study found that almost 75% of world emissions were released through the production of burning fossil fuels for energy. But energy? Well, that's kind of a broad term that can really mean all sorts of things happening in the world. From putting things together to create something, cars, heating our homes, walking on the street, it's all energy. Nowadays, 80% of the world's energy, though, comes from burning fossil fuels, while the other 20% comes from coal, oil, gas, and, well, eating food. The majority of energy that comes from oil and coal is just used to keep our homes warm and cozy throughout the cold winter days. There's also the good energy sources that humans use, also known as low-emission sources like hydroelectric, solar, wind, tidal, and geothermal. Only a very tiny percentage of the world's energy is produced from nuclear energy, so with that being said, we mostly rely on burning fossil fuels, which means that it's very challenging for us to transition from what we're currently using to producing energy from nuclear. So how can we stop burning fossil fuels? If we continue down the path of producing energy this way, we might even end up sending Earth back to when it was during the Stone Age, and probably our civilization as well. So one of the most impactful things that we can do at the moment is to start by using electricity as a primary form of energy. As we know, electricity is that magic kind of energy that lets us plug in our TVs and watch as much YouTube as we want, charging our phones, cook, and many other basic needs that we can't think of living without. The first thing that we can do to reduce climate change is for every industry that can function with electricity should be fully using it instead of burning fossil fuels to produce energy. A great way to do this is by beginning to use electric heaters in electric cars. The reason why electricity is the way to go is that it can be easily produced by low-emission technologies like nuclear energy or solar or wind. However, there's a couple of problems when it comes to transitioning to electricity. First of all, the majority of the world works on the energy production by burning fossil fuels, and another big problem is that the usage of electricity has become popular only the last 20 years, meaning that we still have a long way to go. But let's look on the bright side. The usage of electricity is still rising each passing year. However, since renewables haven't been so great in catching up with the demand of using electricity, the progress in transitioning will take decades, meaning that it might be too late for a chance to improve global warming. The other alternative, nuclear energy. Even though nuclear energy is not exactly renewable, it's still a much better alternative than burning stuff and producing toxic gases. Transitioning to nuclear energy might not fully stop global warming, but it will surely slow down the process and give us more time to either make a full transition to electricity or find another way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to zero. In the last 2 decades, nuclear energy has been promoted and even used as a better alternative in overpopulated countries such as India, China, and even South Korea. Since these places have a huge number of residents, they have seen the negative impacts of producing energy from burning fossil fuels. Many of us might have seen all over the news that India, it's not only suffering from the early consequences that come with global warming, but its air is getting over-polluted from being able to breathe. Similar occurrences have also started happening in regions in China. But the situation in Germany and Japan has been the complete opposite. Instead of promoting nuclear energy, they have been taking their nuclear plants. This might sound a bit confusing as there are developed countries such as Sweden and France that are in the process of fully transitioning to hydropower and nuclear energy so as to prevent global warming. Surprisingly enough, these transitioning countries have been doing quite a good job, as the amount of energy that they produce from fossil fuels is only about 10%. 63% of France's energy is currently coming from nuclear, while 20% is getting produced by hydro. Another big problem with the transition to nuclear power is that it takes a lot of investments so as to make it actually happen. This is because that most of the world's nuclear reactors are outdated, and when compared to how much technology has advanced, updating these nuclear reactors with the advanced technology that we use today is highly expensive for developing countries. Even for more modern and developed countries, countries, the cost to be able to renovate and bring these plants up to speed is still very tedious, expensive, and overall hazardous of a task to complete. To create nuclear reactors that will be able to function properly today, we would need to reconstruct them all over again and also make a lot of changes in regulatory constraints and policy changes. With all that being said, it could take at least 10 years or more to be able to make these changes happen. And at the end of all this, nuclear energy still won't stop climate change, making it a useless investment for many Western countries. But how did China, India, and South Korea manage their nuclear energy? These countries have managed to build new nuclear reactors in just a couple of years. But the most impressive part of it all is that they have been rebuilding them at a surprisingly low cost. The low cost is explainable, however, as the generation of nuclear power plants in the Western world is generally more expensive. Countries in Europe and North America are also concerned about using nuclear energy as they fear that its outcomes, such as potential accidents, explosions, and nuclear waste. And because it's a relatively new concept, most people argue whether nuclear energy is safe or not, and think that it's better to just go for renewables. But renewables still have a long way to come before they can take on most of the electrical grid. The main problem with this energy method is consistency and reliability. The weather changes frequently, and it's not always sunny or windy outside, and the changes between seasons just make the situation harder. To make renewables work, we need to find a way that they can be 100% reliable and not lead us to blackouts. Despite this, we also need to create massive storage capacities so as to save the energy collected when it's sunny or windy and use it for later. But until this problem will be solved, we need to start using other alternatives that produce electricity to stop climate change and give us the supply of energy that we need to run properly. Studies show that we'll be able to do this with renewables, but for now, we don't have any such advanced technology to find an efficient way to store that much energy. Renewables versus nuclear power plants. Okay, so it's not that we're trying to completely kick out fossil fuels, but all that we're saying is that we need to completely stop climate change and better the environment. And in order to do that, we must start replacing this energy with electricity. But if we continue using electricity in different industries, we will eventually need more of it. Not to mention that the population will rapidly increase in the next 20 years. So, the risk of blackouts and power shortages, if we transition to electricity, might become as problematic as producing energy by burning fossil fuels. Either way, no matter which way you slice it, it's all going to come with its own problems. Nuclear energy and renewables both do require a lot of investment, time, and new technology so as to get them where we want. To tell you the truth, neither of these methods is ready to fully replace fossil fuels. However, if we start focusing on them more, we can find a solution to use them faster. If humanity manages to do this, we'll have a better chance of stopping climate change and not have to suffer the consequences of extreme weather. The only battle we're facing about this is where do we focus our energy more, in nuclear energy or renewables? Investing in both can be a good, logical answer to this question, but the risk of doing this is just too high. Even if rebuilding nuclear power plants is expensive in the Western world, it's going to be much cheaper in the long term. If we continue producing energy using fossil fuels, then the number of investments that we will make to save our planet will be much higher. So, when it comes to renewable and nuclear energy, it depends on how determined we are to save the planet and make things work. So, what do you think that all this energy will look like in the future? Will it come from nuclear plants or renewables? Let us know in the comment section down below what you think. And if you liked this video, then please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, as well as hitting that post notification bell so you never miss another update from us. Until next time, guys, we'll see you later.